So the inconvenience of being in the dark for hours is one thing. Being cut off from the world at the same time is quite another. Cell phone companies have been warning of intermittent network coverage during power outages. The problem is exacerbated by increased theft of cell phone tower batteries. Joining me now is MTN's General Manager for Network Operations, Ernest Paul. Ernest, this phenomenon of these batteries being stolen is not something new. We've spoken about it on numerous occasions as a country. But you had flagged that it gets particularly bad during times of load shedding. So what's the status update from your side?
So we've seen a huge impact come from load shedding the last couple of days. You know, the significance thereof is we went into stage 6 last night, which was completely unanticipated. Currently, MTN has around about 3,000 base stations without batteries installed because they've been stolen or vandalized. This particularly means, you know, what we experienced last night, up to 25% of the network is unavailable. That means 1 in 4 towers of this network essentially becomes unavailable. It was quite clear last night driving on the N1 highway. Either you had no service or you had a very poor service, and all the operators are badly impacted as a result of the load shedding status. Severely impacted because there's no battery backup. So
I imagine then that you are having to scramble a bit and move resources around. What are you doing to mitigate the impact? Because as you rightly say, the impact on network coverage, some of us have actually felt it.
So MTN has currently got about 1,800 generators running to try and sustain base stations across the country at the moment. We've now set up teams that are constantly working around the clock to remobilize and redeploy these generators as the power grid moves and the load shedding moves on. We have also further seen that the fuel spend and the fuel availability is becoming a bit of an issue as well. So we're spending quite a lot of money at this time of the year, which is completely unanticipated. I estimate that we probably spent close to R1 million worth of fuel in the last week just to sustain what we currently do not have in terms of grid.
Sure, this is intense then, Ernest. What about this phenomenon of these thefts of these batteries? You know, my sense of from previous conversations with you was that it's sometimes driven by load shedding, that suddenly there's demand for alternative sources of energy, and therefore the cell phone tower batteries that you use, being as powerful as they are, suddenly they become a target.
That's exactly right. So this is going to be no different. We saw it in the bout of load shedding we had a couple of months ago. There's a very direct correlation between load shedding and the battery thefts or vandalism of base stations. Recently we've seen again there were arrests where people were arrested transferring batteries from KwaZulu-Natal up to the borders. And this problem is now not just in South Africa, but it's obviously across our borders as well. But particularly, I anticipate a huge spike in battery thefts in South Africa for the local demand and local market.
Have you reached a point where, I mean, right now you're moving generators around and you're incurring the costs that you just described by way of fuel costs? Have you reached a stage where you really have to seriously now look at alternatives away from and I almost said away from Eskom, and perhaps away from Eskom, but also away from these tower batteries that are so in demand? What else can you do?
The problem is that there are very few alternatives. There are stuff like fuel cells, various other options that you could look at. Solar panels inevitably are a huge target as well. We've got some rural sites where we do run solar panels off, and unfortunately it's very difficult to secure these solar panels as well. So our options are very limited. We are extremely dependent on the power grid and maintaining the services we can. I anticipate, though, that had we not had the vandalism and theft problem, the impact on the networks would have been minimal. But unfortunately, we're in a scenario right now where these batteries are not available, and hence we're not able to sustain the quality.
Yeah, so had we not had this situation where these batteries were stolen, we would not be receiving the messages that we are receiving from you guys as the networks, basically forewarning us that, you know, network coverage may not be so reliable. So in a way, we are our own worst enemies.
Correct, because these base stations are designed for up to 8 to 12 hours of backup and standby. So where we're seeing load shedding take place for a 4-hour period, we would easily be able to sustain the network in that period. Unfortunately, the infrastructure is not available.
Is there a geographic spread of where these base stations that you're saying are out, of commission right now because of the cell phone tower batteries being stolen? Where are they largely located?
So I would say anything north of Vereeniging up to the border in Zimbabwe is badly affected. The entire Gauteng, Tshwane, northern province, everybody's badly affected. I'm seeing these effects now take place in KwaZulu-Natal as well now. A huge spike in KZN at the moment, which is deeply concerning for us. Doesn't mean the rest of the country is not feeling the pain, but if I had to isolate the most impactful areas right now, it's probably the entire Gauteng as well as Limpopo and Mpumalanga.
All right, Ernest, thank you so much for coming through and sharing with us as you continue to work through that particular challenge. That's Ernest Paul from MTN. He's been outlining for us some of the reasons why you may be disconnected from your network at the moment.